Hey guys, this is Dennis, the founder of Think Hero.
And I'm David Griffin, your resident comic book and video game guru.
And this is our review of The Hobbit, Desolation of Smaug, the second in the Hobbit trilogy.
Hobbit trilogy.
Yeah.
Smaug.
Directed by Peter Jackson.
Peter Jackson, written by about 4 people. It's nice to see Guillermo del Toro still getting a little credit, even though he hasn't been involved in the project in years.
So we'll talk about our general thoughts, and then we'll get into spoilers. So just a warning for you guys.
Right.
We'll let you know when we get into the spoiler section. So my overall thoughts are I like this a lot better than the first one. The pacing was better. It wasn't as slow. There was more things about it. It was a better tone. It was like a serious tone to it.
Yeah.
Less
more
jokey.
Yeah.
And I just got a more Lord of the Rings feel to it. So what about you?
I agree. It was much better. I think, when it was first announced they were going to make it into 3 movies, I'm like, this is the shortest book of the whole series. It doesn't need to be made into 3 movies. But I think we could have shortened the first one, just made it shorter. But I'm glad this one got to the meat of everything. I mean, they're really expanding. From the books don't link to Lord of the Rings that much. There's not all this stuff with going on that we see, but they're doing that with this one. Not to spoil anything, but I like that they're doing that in a way. I don't mind that they're changing things. I like that they're kind of linking to the trilogy, so you could essentially watch all 6, which take you 2 days.
Yeah, they're adding Legolas is in this movie.
It was great to have him back.
He's not in the Hobbit book,
right.
but they pull him in to create a link there.
Yeah, and it's great having him back. Like having him back, I'm like, okay, this feels like a Lord of the Rings film. It was nice to have him back.
And then you have Tariel, which is Evangeline Lilly's character, which is a totally brand new made-up character and a love interest for Legolas.
Gotta have love interest, yeah.
Which I thought she was great in.
Yeah, she was great. I mean, I thought, if anything, I think she stole some of the scenes. Like, every time she was in a scene, I was like, wow, she's really good. Because I haven't really seen her in much since Lost, and I liked her in Lost, but she was great in this.
Well, she has this elven look to her as well.
She does look
kind of like Liv Tyler does.
Right.
Except for Liv Tyler was more like the, more magical, I'm a, princess type, and she was like the more badass, I'm going to kick your ass type.
Right, and she was kind of lower class. It was nice to see a low-class elf, like, because they all look so regal and have long hair, but she was kind of low class. I mean, she wasn't partying with everybody. She always kind of felt left out, and I enjoyed that. And
she was a badass fighter.
Yeah, she's awesome. She was just as good as Legolas.
Yeah.
She could hold her own. Yeah, it was great. I mean, let's talk about, some of the, again, I'll get into spoilers later, but like the action sequences were great.
Yes.
This blend of good comedy and just everything going on. And it's great casting. I mean, Luke Evans being in the movie was great.
Yeah, as Bard the Bowman.
Yeah, Luke Evans was great.
I think he fit very well into this universe. And speaking of the action sequences, which we'll get into more detail in the spoiler section, they were just more memorable.
Yeah.
There was more, like the barrel scene and the scenes with Smaug, like they just, they were just more impactful than in the first one, which, I mean, it's not like they were bad action sequences, but I don't ever go back and go, man, I got, like with Two Towers, I'm like, man, that fight at Helm's Deep.
Yeah.
Like,
and then even
I gotta see that again.
Even Fellowship, which had less, I want to say less action than the other 2. Even Fellowship, that scene at the end by the river, when Aragorn just like puts up his sword like this and just like starts taking down all these guys, and Boromir fight until he dies. I mean, those are some great action sequences. Always had memorable fight scenes. Yeah, the first one, again, it was just stretched out because they made it into a trilogy. Peter Jackson's like, we got to make this a trilogy. I'm like, no, you don't really need to make this into a trilogy. But I'm still glad the movies are out. I mean, they're great.
Yeah, and especially seeing this one where a lot of the problems I had with the first one are fixed.
Yeah.
So let's get into some more spoiler stuff. Before we do that, let's just give our grades and our overall thoughts. I'm gonna give it an A-. Okay. I think it was a very well put together movie with a lot of good action and better pacing. And,
right.
And I feel like this definitely is something you should see. I saw it in 3D. I did not see in high frame rate because I hate high frame rate.
Soap opera effect.
Yes, it makes everything look fake. You can see like how cheesy the props are, the green screen, like the lines for the green screen. Yeah, I can do a whole video about how much I hate high frame rates.
Yeah, I saw it in 3D and it looked great.
Not high frame rate or frame rate?
No, not high frame rate.
Okay.
Just regular old 24 frames per second. But like most new 3D movies, it just kind of gave it depth. Like there's a few bees and insects flying around that kind of popped in your face, but it doesn't. You don't have to see it in 3D.
Yeah, it's not like Gravity. Like Gravity, no. I'm like, oh, you got to see that in 3D.
Avatar, maybe.
Avatar.
Yeah.
I think Life of Pi felt like you should see in 3D. This is not one of them.
No.
This is a movie that's like, okay, you could see in 2D and just
right.
be fine.
I mean, even though Peter Jackson shot it in 3D, like there wasn't anything I needed to see in 3D necessarily. But for me, I'm holding back a little bit. I'm going to give it a B+. Okay. Not that I enjoyed it more than the first one. I thought this was a great movie. Definitely go see it. But I still don't love it still as much as the original trilogy, which I loved. But this was a great improvement, and I can't wait for the next one.
Oh, one thing, too, before we get into the spoiler section, that I won't – this isn't a spoiler, but Smaug, he's in it a lot.
Yeah,
in the
more
movie
than I thought. I thought they were going to maybe cut it off like right when they start, engaging.
Yeah, well, you worry like, oh, maybe budget-wise they can't spend all that money on it, but he's in it quite a bit, much more with Benedict Cumberbatch's,
great voiceover work.
Great voiceover work. I also thought Richard Armitage as Thorin Oakenshield was better in this one.
Yeah.
I felt more connected to his character and his motivations, which I think. They kind of mentioned what he was doing in the first one, but you didn't really wrap your hands around. I mean, come on, 45 minutes to get out of Hobbiton.
Right.
It was 45 minutes. They sang a really cool song at the end before they left, but we didn't need 45 minutes there.
I mean, that's like the worst part. If anybody's read like Lord of the Rings, The First Blood, Fellowship of the Ring, that's like the whole part concerning Hobbits. That's probably the slowest part of the book. It's like, okay, I get it. Like the Hobbits are fun, they're playful. Let's get through this. So,
okay, so let's get into the spoilers.
So I want to start off first. I want to talk about, since we just mentioned Thorin, I want to keep going with him. Okay. I agree with you. I think his character was so much more developed. He had his little kind of like ring moment. He doesn't have necessarily the one ring to rule them all, but he does have the Arkenstone. We hear more about the whole greed and the downfall and how that greed brought the dragon upon them. And he was getting greedy. He came in there, he's like, "Oh, we got all this gold, we're gonna be rich, everybody's gonna be rich." I'm like, that's not everything. Like, and that showed that how his greed almost clouded his judgment. I mean, he was ready to sacrifice Bilbo.
Yeah, and he has this kind of weird relationship with Bilbo. He's like, I need him, but I don't know if I want to need him.
Right, because they had that great moment at the end of the first one where they hugged it out and all that, and it kind of went a different way in this one.
Yeah, but then he's like, okay, you go in there, you get the Arkenstone.
Right,
I'll wait back here.
Because I love he's kind of like the Obi-Wan of the group, the older the dwarf there with the gray hair, and he was like, if you do see anything down there, he's like, well, what's going to see our dragon? This Bilbo is so scared.
Yeah, I think it was Gloin. Is that his name?
Yeah, Gloin. Okay.
I always get confused. There's so many names.
Right.
Keely, Feely, Ori, Dory, Nori. Yeah.
Buffa. Buffa's my favorite.
and then what do you think of like the whole relationship? Because some people didn't care for it. I thought it was fine. The relationship between Tariel, Evangeline Lilly's character, and I think it's Keely.
Yeah, I thought it was nice. I mean, I see, dwarves getting a little love.
Yeah.
I mean, because they always pick on dwarf women looking like men and all that stuff. Like when Legolas was looking at the pictures, like, who is this ugly, who's this mutant? So that's my son, So it's nice to see him. I don't mind. I like that a little better than Legolas and her.
Well,
Legolas is a more obvious choice. He's
more obvious choice. Not only that, he's different than what he is in.
He's much darker.
Yeah, he's darker. He's angrier. More bratty, more serious. He has more of a joking style in Lord of the Rings.
Right, and also you can see how his dad probably is influencing him. His dad's kind of crazy. He's got like all these scars he's hiding up and all this. I don't know. He's crazy.
Yeah, well, he chopped off that one orc's head. Even after telling him he would let him go,
he doesn't want to hear it. I mean, he's basically predicting the fall of the return of Sauron and all this stuff, and he's just in denial. And these elves are a lot different too. They're not the elves of Rivendell. Which are a lot nicer and more elegant.
These are the ghetto. These are the ghetto ones.
And I didn't think elves could get drunk. What's up with the drinking? Remember, like Legolas had that drinking competition in Two Towers, and like he felt a little tingling in his fingers. Those guys were passed out. They must have drank a lot of wine.
It must be like some special elven wine.
Elven wine. It's a little stronger.
Okay, let's talk about Smaug. How cool was it to see him and see like the size of him? And they really captured, I think, because they worked with Benedict Cumberbatch so much, the mannerisms, the facial expressions of it, they made it feel like not a CG character and much more like a real, not like there's real dragons, but it made it feel more real.
Yeah, I mean, this is not like Reign of Fire. I mean, this is It was so great, the facial expressions. I mean, you could, as soon as he like kind of stood up, you could see like the grin on his face, like that evil, menacing, sinister grin. I mean, Cumberbatch's voiceover was great. I love that scene when Bilbo's like saying all these like, oh, how great you are, and then he just like you see his full size when he just like says, how do I look? He's just great. I loved everything about Smaug. He might have been one of the better CG characters I've ever seen.
Yeah, definitely.
Next to when Gollum came out.
And then we this is a spoiler section. The end of the movie is basically a cliffhanger. It's after he breaks free of the gold, like
shakes it off.
Yeah, he shakes off the gold and then flies away, and he's pissed.
Oh, he's mad. Yeah,
he's pissed. He's gonna burn everything down.
Right. No,
burn the whole mother down.
Yeah, right when it ended, I'm like, no. But the nice thing is we'll have to wait a year, and it's gonna come back next year.
Yeah,
so it's not that long of a wait.
Yeah, but what did you think of that cliffhanger? I think it was a good point.
Fair. It was a good point to stop. It was good.
Yeah,
I think so.
So the next movie will have Smaug in it, and then more big battles in it as well.
And the whole thing with Gandalf being captured. I mean, go to Gandalf's story. That's not in the we don't see Gandalf being captured in the Hobbit. So I think it's interesting that they have him being captured over there, and I'm gonna Dargadul. I don't know how to pronounce it.
I have to be honest. For my negatives, that was not one of my favorite.
That was your
things.
favorite. Okay.
Yeah, I didn't really care about. I care about Gandalf. I think he's great. I would prefer him to stay with the Hobbits. Like his whole side mission to me, I just didn't really care because they're basically alluding to Sauron,
right?
For Lord of the Rings.
I'm not like trying to be like a purist about the book. Like it has to be word for word. That's impossible. No adaptation is going to be necessarily word for word, but they're really linking that. So they want you to link it. And I think, him going away, it's like, I'd rather let them change it around. Maybe him go with the dwarves. I know that would be changing some things around. I understand that. But, that part wasn't the part I was most interested in.
No.
It was mostly with the dwarves, at the Lonely Mountain with Smaug.
With Bilbo and Thorin Oakenshield.
Even the stuff in Lake Town.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. With Bard the Bowman, played by Luke Evans. I like that whole dynamic between him and the dwarves, and also... the Thorn going in front of the people saying, look, he kind of like played to their greed.
Yeah, he did.
Like, hey, I'm going to get all this money and
be rich.
Yeah, we're going to help you guys out,
Right.
But and Bard the Bowman was not happy about that.
Right. And now we leave with our group split. We have the group on the Lonely Mountain and then some other guys, staying behind. So yeah, I mean, there's gonna be a lot of stuff going on in the next movie.
Yeah, and there was a sequence where Tariel decides to stay with Keeley because he's dying from the poison, instead of helping Legolas, which I'm sure he's not going to be too happy about.
No, he's jealous. He's jealous, but he's the king's son. He can't. He's a prince. He can't be doing with the lower class people.
Well, speaking of that whole scene in with the elves. Well, actually, it wasn't just the elves. It was with the dwarves, too. Right. But the whole barrel scene was awesome.
Yeah, that was
a
great.
Really cool scene.
And I love how, Bilbo repeats that later, like, barrel rider. He's like, I'm a barrel rider. And that's what Smaug keeps referring to him as, his barrel rider. That was especially with, I'm going to say Fibble. It's not Fibble. Bumba? Biffa, the big guy. The big guy with the red beard. I love how he was just rolling around. That was a great action sequence.
Yes,
that was a great action.
I think that was something we didn't really get in The Hobbit.
Right, just seeing Legolas again, having Legolas back was key. It just felt like a Lord of the Rings movie with him in there. I mean, Orlando Bloom hasn't, he's been acting and busy, but just seeing him back in Lord of the Rings was just, I'm like, yeah, this is where you need to be, man. This is your sweet spot, being Legolas.
So yeah, this iteration, this wrap up. This movie makes me more excited for the third and final chapter than the first one did for this
I agree. I completely agree. Because the first one, I was like, okay, this is going to be a series. This is going to come out. It's not going to be as good as Lord of the Rings. This new one, I think, hey, this could match, its predecessor.
Which I think is being shown in the box office returns. We're filming this after the weekend of the opening.
It did well, not as well as the first one,
exactly.
but it still did well.
See, the first one is coming off of the Lord of the Rings trilogy, and so people were super excited to see it. And so you can see that because it was a lesser box office opening, that people weren't excited because they felt the first one was lacking. Just like I did. Not that I didn't like it, but that it was lacking. It was slower paced. It didn't quite have as much in there.
Right. So yeah, we'll see with the next one.
All right. All right, guys. So you can post your comments below on the website, thinkhero.com, or on our YouTube channel, Think Hero Pro. Make sure to subscribe to that.
You also can chat with us on Twitter. Talk to Dennis and I, or Michael and myself. Tell us what you thought of the Desolation of Smaug. You can find us at Think Hero. I'm at Griffin DE.
We also have a Facebook page. That's facebook.com/ThinkHeroFans. Make sure you like that page and you share and tweet and like our
spread the
videos.
word.